Steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline!
Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
Strap yourself in and get ready.
And here we go!
The leaders in fantasy football are incoming, giving you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now listening to the Insight NFL Show with your hosts, Guns and Maverick.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the Insight NFL Show. I'm your host tonight. Got the reins tonight. Bit of an upgrade in the job, and joined with me from the local league of Vista, Guycon Vista. I call it Guycon still. DFAB. How are you going, mate? How you feeling?
Good, Mav. Good, mate. How are you?
Oh, mate, fantasy football. Yeah,
it's back, mate. I'm so happy.
It's fucking back. You know, waking up at 3 a.m. last Monday, having that being tired for the day, working that day as well. It's nothing better than that, to be honest. It's a fucking rough day, but such a good day as well.
Worth it every week. And I'm going to do it again for another, 15, 16, 17 weeks?
Yeah, unless your fantasy team's going shit, then you probably go to bed. But,
might choose sleep over it.
yeah. But it's great for it to be back, mate. I'm keen as for this week coming up, which we will preview very shortly. Let's start with the injuries, mate.
Yeah. So yes, injuries.
All right. So the first one, mate,
far away.
CMC. Achilles tendonitis day to day. What do we think about that one? That's a bit of a hard one, isn't it?
Look, I can understand why people are panicking. I'm not particularly worried about it. I found a little stat for you for this one. So since 2018, there's only been 25 guys to get the injury report with Achilles or calf, and only 2 of those 25 have recurred that injury. So I think once he's healthy and they give him the all clear, he's got the green light, he'll be back to being CMC.
It's one of those things, though. They've got Mason now, and they probably just give CMC a bit of time just to rest up. And there's no real timetable for him to come back at this stage, but it's just day to day. Already ruled out for week 2, so it's one to monitor.
Yeah. Does that mean that CMC is just a system running back though? Knowing how good Jordan Mason is he just a system guy?
He might be around one pick next year, Jordan Mason.
Yeah, he might be.
The next one we've got here is Puka Nacua with a knee injury. He's been placed on IR. They reckon he's going to be out for, well, they said 4 weeks, but it looks like it's going to be longer than that, huh?
Yeah, this one worries me a little bit. PCL sprain, I believe. And I think, is it the same injury he had in the preseason, that bursa sack? Is it the same?
No, opposite
it's
knee
different.
as well.
Just an opposite knee, right? The fact that already talking about him being out longer than the 4 weeks and it's been 3 or 4 days is a worry. I reckon maybe it's at minimum 5 to 6, but look, I don't know.
It's
a tough one.
It's pretty much Cooper Cup to the moon now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Next one. This one's an interesting one, mate. And this one's got me stumped a little bit. But David Njoku with an ankle sprain. They were saying it's a high ankle sprain, but he's listed as week to week, but he's already been ruled out for week 2. That's a massive loss for this Browns offense.
Yeah, it is. And, I mean, the Browns offense, I think, leaves a little to be desired anyway, so losing a weapon like him is pretty tough. I feel like high ankle sprains, that most guys are missing 4 to 5 weeks normally, right? Like, I can't see him coming back in the next 1 or 2, so... Njoku, that's a big loss for the Browns.
Yeah, he's such a focal point of that offense as well. Obviously, besides Amari Cooper, but mate, he's one to monitor. I'd be I'm a Njoku owner personally.
Wouldn't surprise me if they throw him on the IR in a week or 2, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it'd be stupid too because they should have done it this week if that was the case.
Yeah, they should. We're talking about the Browns here, so
yeah. The next one, my boy, Jake Ferguson. Now, they're saying he's got a knee injury. I don't know the extent of the knee injury, but it's day-to-day He reckons the
Mhm.
pain is at a very low point, and he could play this week. He reckons, but being such a big boy, he's going to be a bit cautious though as well.
Yeah, I did see Ian Rappaport said that when they first did the scans, they were worried about an ACL, didn't appear to tear it, but there was legitimate concern was the term used. So I can't, uh, as much as he says, sorry, that he wants to get back out there, I can't see this not being at least 2 or 3 weeks until he's back. Like, if they're
I'll
worried about
definitely rest him
major,
this week.
oh, for sure. Yeah.
He's too important for Dallas to be out long term. So I would definitely put him on ice this week and see how he's going for week 3.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm going to put these two together. We got Mostert, who's out with a chest injury this week already, playing tomorrow night, and A-Chain is questionable.
My boy.
Now, it's a bit of a concern that A-Chain's injured already. It's a massive red flag for me that we've had 1 week of football and he's already on the injury report and questionable. Such a small running back in terms of size, but obviously so fucking good as well. So it's a bit of a concern, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more concerned with the Mostert one, knowing that he was hurt early and stayed out the rest of the game. It was all Jeff Wilson from there on out. So Mostert worries me a little bit more. Achan, I'm not panicked about. As you know, in Vista, I've now ridden the A-Chain train for now my second season, and I find myself very familiar with injury reports. I think this is why they picked up Jalen Wright. So I think they'll be extra cautious with him. I reckon they'll sit him this week, possibly next week, depending on how bad the ankle is, and they'll just run the second unit. That's why they've held on to Jeff Wilson. That's why they've picked up Jalen Wright. I reckon he's definitely going to miss, even though he's sitting as a game-time decision at the moment.
And including with Mostert, he's been so injury-prone over the course of his career.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this chest injury that he's got is going to be multiple weeks. He's
for sure. Yeah, even when he was back at the 49ers, it was just constantly on the injury report. You might get 1 game and then he's out for 4. It's just story of his career, unfortunately.
Pretty much. This one's been noted, but we'll say it again. Jordan Love out for 3 to 6 weeks. It's a bit of an unknown timetable, giving us a 3 to 6 week span. Luckily enough, he didn't tear his ACL or do anything like too bad. But
surprising considering the footage.
Yeah, like his knee popped, and I was thinking, "Fuck,
yeah, bad."
But that's good news to Jordan Love to a degree. Like he's only out 3 to 6 weeks, not too bad.
Yeah, exactly right. He'll be right. Just rest up, get your knee right. You'll be back. Be good fun for any Josh Jacobs owners in the meantime.
Yeah, well, he should now eat. He really should now eat.
He should.
Interesting one here. Kenny Walker. He's not practicing.
Yeah.
He didn't practice today with the abdomen. I'm concerned that he's going to miss this week, mate.
I think he will too. And I think this early in the year, I can't help but think that teams would probably practice patience more than anything else and be a little bit more conservative. He's not as bad as Mostert, but he's always on the injury report. So it probably makes sense to rest him. You've got Zach Charbonnet, who's shown that he can, not to the same level, but can be serviceable. So just chuck him in there. Let Kenny Walker get right. Maybe week 2, week 3, come back.
And Zach Charbonnet should be pretty much monitored as well. I'd be picking him up immediately once this news drops. Probably should be picked up already, to be honest, just in case. Sure. Unless you're dropping someone of extreme value, I would be picking up Charbonnet immediately. And if he doesn't play, just drop him to the waivers.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
And the last one we've got here is T. Higgins is already ruled out for week 2. Now, he's done a hammy. We're not too sure how long this hammy is going to be. I don't like the sounds of this because they do reoccur. I don't like hammies.
Yeah.
He did it in the preseason, really. And also, he's playing without a contract. So he's going to be in no rush to come back.
Yeah, it's a worry. I'm a very firm believer in stay away from guys that hurt their hammies, especially in the preseason. So it doesn't surprise me that it's causing headaches coming into the year. Even when he comes back, he's going to be underdone. So a bit of a cause for concern for T. Higgins for mine.
They definitely need him playing though. Like he's again such a focal point of their offense. As 100%. A Bengal standpoint, they need him back. Jamar Chase looked pretty average in the week.
Purely from a football standpoint, they need that. They need that field spread. They looked pretty horrible without it.
Yeah. So that'll pretty much do us on the injury report.
Yes.
I don't like mentioning all those players coming out of week one. It's a bit of a concern because there's a lot of good players on that list. So
Yeah, there
hopefully
is.
when we do this week 2, there's not too many more. But
Agreed.
in the
Agreed,
meantime,
mate.
mate, let's start off with the week 2 preview.
Let's preview the games for the week ahead. It's time for Game Talk.
All right, mate. So tomorrow we've got a big game tomorrow, mate. It's the Bills. This is going to be a potential shootout. It's going to be so fun to watch. Do you start any of the Bills' wide receivers going to this game?
Any of the sorry, was that Bills or Finns?
Bills.
Honestly, I'm starting all pass catches from both teams. I think it will be a shootout. So I think Josh Allen's going to have to throw, and the pass catches be good for them to keep up with the Finns. I think both teams were pretty unconvincing last week in their games, and both probably need a bounce back purely for confidence to get themselves on the right track. Obviously, both coming away with the dub is nice, but I think they both need to kind of right the ship a little bit. And being a primetime game, it's a bit of a coin flip. It should be a really fun one.
And especially Josh Allen as well. I mean, he balled out last week, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Against a real average, not even average, should I say, a real shit Cardinals defense, secondary and their pass rush, and he still couldn't really blow them up in the air. So for me, it's a massive red flag for their wide receivers. Mac Hollins was heavily involved in the passing game for whatever reason. Keon Cohen was okay in his debut, but I'd probably play Keon Coleman if you're playing in sort of deeper leagues. But if you're not, then I'd probably sit him this week personally.
Yeah, agreed. A bit of a concern as well with Curtis Samuel. Obviously, brought him in to be the wide receiver 1. Well, even same with Dalton Kincaid. You know, the 2 guys that were really thought to be the 1 and 2, and got pretty much nothing. Barely got a look from Josh Allen. So some real concern. I'd like to think that this is the game where they can right the ship, because it should be a shootout. They're going to have to throw big to keep up. But yeah, I don't know. I
definitely want to see a bounce back game from Kincaid. That was horrendous last week, and especially at the start of the year, I was thinking, shit, Kincaid could be like the tight end 1, like a smoky, the tight end 1, being very pass heavy the offense you'd imagine, and not many really good options, should I say? I was thinking it might be Kincaid season. So look, early days, but he should bounce back this week, I reckon.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he'll get a lot more of the ball and a lot more looks, and he's talented enough where he can really make an impact with pretty minimal catch. He just needs a look from Josh Allen.
Now, a question for you. This is a pretty tough question, but if obviously Mostert's out and A-Chain, if they're both out, do you start Jeff Wilson as your RB2 this week?
1,000%.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm starting both Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright. I think both of them have. Yeah, 100%. I know that's a bold take, but I think those 2 are set up as the second string to fill the roles that both Mostert and A-Chain have, almost like a hockey line change. I reckon they're going to come in, maybe not be as efficient, not as impactful, but they're there to do the exact same roles. I reckon they're going to fit in pretty seamlessly.
Well, Jalen Wright looked awesome in the preseason, so and he's got some insane speed. So if he gets any opportunity to break one out, he's gone. So look, if he runs for a 50-yard touchdown, that's going to be like 11 points or something like that. So massive.
He's hoping.
But that's gonna be a fun game, man. I'm expecting a shootout for sure.
It should be good fun, and yeah, for fantasy wise, I think all pass catches. Honestly, every offensive piece is worthwhile starting. I reckon it's a good game to have anyone in.
Bloody oath. We'll move on to the next game, which we've got the Niners at the Vikings. Jordan Mason must start, huh? You have to start Jordan Mason this week.
Well, assuming CMC's out, 1,000%.
He's already ruled out.
Well then, yeah. Jordan Mason looked absolutely insane. He looked like he was fighting for extra yards, getting through holes. One of the better debuts that I can remember seeing in a very long time. He was
even
fantastic.
Pass catching involved. And especially with such a good offensive line, like you saw these, the offensive line go that second level and block the linebackers and create those holes. Like this, it's when CMC comes back in there with this offensive line, he's probably just going to eat even more.
Oh yeah, if that's any sign of how good CMC could be this year, knowing he should be a level above Jordan Mason, that's a good reason to ideally not panic if you're the CMC owner, because the Niners look like they've leveled up, which is very exciting, knowing that he's the focal point of the entire offense.
Yeah. Ayuk, do we start in this week?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I'm starting everyone from the 49ers. Vikings, I'm a little bit more sheepish on. I don't like too much outside of Aaron Jones. But the Niners, I know they're on the short week. I'm not spooked by it at all. Purdy's 11-2 straight up on the road. He's got 22 touchdowns to 5 interceptions since he started the league on the road with a 110 passer rating. I'd be slamming every San Fran player you can get. If you're a betting man, I'd be slamming the spread of 5.5. I think Niners are going to run away with it very quickly.
Yeah. Look, mate, I'll be honest with you. I'm not really too convinced with the old Ayuk. It looked rusty last week. Hasn't had a training camp at all. And he said it himself. He didn't have his timing. I'd be a little bit nervous. I wouldn't expect a big score out of him. Obviously, you probably start your best players and back him in early. But I just wouldn't expect this guy to go big. I mean, he could, but I just wouldn't expect it.
Yeah,
I
guess you just got to temper your expectations, right? Like if you're in there hoping that he's going to be a wide receiver 1, you're probably going to be disappointed. But if you've got him sitting as maybe like a wide receiver 2, or even if he's sitting in your flex or something like that, and you've got guys you can put in instead, I think you're going to be pretty happy. Worst case scenario, he does the job. Best case, he has a big blow up game. He shows that he's worth the money, and he kind of returns back to form pretty quick.
Yeah, so I reckon by about week 4, week 5, he'll be probably back in full stretch. And by then we'll be seeing those Ayuk numbers that we're used to seeing last year for sure.
For sure, absolutely.
So we don't like the Vikings too much. Obviously, you play Jefferson, but you don't play Addison. Obviously,
no, I'm not touching Addison.
Do we play Darnold in Superflex leagues?
Superflex, you could probably have a look. He's gonna have to try to keep up, so the passing volume will likely be there. I think they'll use Aaron Jones quite a lot, especially from what they did last week. I think he'll be really good in the first half, and we'll get lots of volume as they try to whittle the clock down. I think that's kind of going to be the Vikings' game plan. Just keep the clock running, reduce the amount of time that 49ers are on the field. So Aaron Jones is a good play. You could play Darnold. I think there's better options out there than Sam Darnold. But if you're in a bit of a
desperate.
Yeah, if you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, he's not the worst person to put in purely out of the fact that they're going to be down. They're going to have to catch up somehow.
Yeah. We'll say goodbye to that game, and we'll move on to the next barn burner of the game. I'm not looking forward to this one, but it's going to have some fantasy implications, and that's the Giants at the Commanders.
Yes.
And my biggest take in this game is now or never from Malik Neighbours. If he can't put up a good score, it is. But they're playing against a real weak secondary at Washington. If Danny Dimes can't support this guy to be a wide receiver 2 level fantasy option, then I don't know what the fuck he's going to do moving forward with him.
Yeah, you're right. It's always tough with rookies, especially when they have. I think the Giants had a pretty rough matchup last week. Daniel Jones looked spooked real early as well. Had some trouble rushing with that secondary, and we learned at the start of last year that that's kind of his safety valve, just breaking out of the pocket when the line breaks down. And that was taken away really, really fast. I think he had 14 rushing yards in the first 2 drives and didn't have another one for the rest of the game. So knowing what the Washington defense looks like, he's going to be able to do that, hopefully relieve the pressure a little bit, be a little bit more comfortable, and Neighbours should have a decent game. I think Singletary is a really safe play this week as well. It's going to be a gross game to watch, but should be fun for fantasy. I reckon there's going to be some scores.
Yeah, so my mindset with the Commanders is you play your best against them because they're going to score big. It's such a weak defense that teams should be able to rip them apart. If not, at least score 20-odd points against them to make yourself relevant for fantasy.
For sure.
Now, Jaden Daniels is a must start this week. He's a must start any week with his due to his rushing yards, but especially against the Giants, he could go big this week.
Oh, and he should. It's probably a failure if he doesn't go quite large. He's almost a lock for a top 12 and could be top 5 if things fall his way and he pulls down the touchdowns. I really want to see some better passing from him, though. Obviously, through college, he showed that he does have a decent arm and he can be quite accurate. But last week was an absolute shit show. So really want to see something more from him, even if it's just throw to McLaurin and stuff like that in the short and let him run away with it. We know what McLaurin can do, even with a bad QB. Just put it in your receiver's hands and let them work, because you're not going to be able to do it all with your own legs.
So I was very concerned last week that McLaurin had 3 targets in a real weak receiving corp as well. Like, there's no one else there outside of McLaurin, and he got targeted 3 times. If he got targeted 11 times, I'd be like, oh, fucking oath. Like, this guy's going to be a good fantasy option. But I'm really concerned about the level that McLaurin can go to in fantasy this year due to the fact that Daniels may not be able to support him. It's early days still, but I wouldn't panic just yet.
Oh, absolutely not. I definitely take week 1 with a grain of salt, especially when it comes to rookie QBs. They got to get their sea legs under them, and just the adrenaline dump of playing your first NFL game. It's out of the way. It's done. Cool. Now you're there. You know what it's like being in the NFL. Just get back to it. It's no longer it's not the first. The anticipation of the first is a big deal. So I think now that that's gone, comfortable matchup, that's going to play on his mind that he's now going against the Giants, who are not a good defense. I think all that stuff mentally is going to help him quite a lot, and not have him be so timid and be okay attacking down the field a little bit more.
So I'd also start Brian Robinson this week too.
For sure.
Flex positions, I would definitely start him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they should have a lead on the Giants, and if that's the case, I think Brian Robinson will be eating all day on the ground. And look, he just gets to the end zone week to week, man. Like, he just seems to find his way in there. Just when you think that, they got Eckler in the room and stuff like that, but he still finds his way in the end zone.
Yeah, for sure. I know you were quite high on Eckler coming in. Brian Robinson, still am. I'm a bit out on him now after last week. Brian Robinson looked fantastic. I know that it was only 12 attempts, I think it was. I thought he looked quite good against a Tampa Bay defense that looked better than I expected him to be. Was great out of the backfield in terms of receiving, average 16, 17 yards a carry. So yeah, Brian Robinson is definitely the guy to have, and looks like he's going to be game script proof. He's going to be in, whether it's receiving game, whether it's rushing and they're ahead. He's a pretty safe bet to start.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Let's go to the next game, and this is a bit of a weird game. I don't know what to think out of this game, but it's the Chargers at the Panthers.
Yes.
This is going to be one of the hardest fantasy games of the week, in my opinion. But the way I see it, mate, is I'm benching every single Panthers player until I've seen something out of them. I'm not starting Chuba. I'm not starting Deontay. I can't get around this offense at the moment until Bryce Young fucking grows up and has some sort of confidence back in this game.
The worrying part is all the off-season discussion that it was all mental with Bryce Young. That's never something that you wanna hear. Like, that's the critique that you've got. Not a good thing. You should be confident coming in as high a draft pick as he is. I don't mind Deontay. I came in pretty high on Deontay. I think this will be a little bit of a reset. I think he'll get quite a few targets, and he's safe to start in your flex. But I mean, outside that, it's a pretty ugly game if you've got any Panthers to start. Bryce Young, even in a super flex, sit him, don't touch. Even I definitely wouldn't. Like, I'm not touching Sanders or Chuba.
No, you can't, because the game script's going to be negative, you'd think, and they'll be passing the ball once it's getting a little bit out of hand. If it does, it may not. They may win, but you can't start Chuba or Miles Sanders with any sort of confidence at all.
For sure. I've got to ask you, what are your thoughts on Josh Palmer after a week 1 that was maybe a little bit lackluster for what a lot of people were expecting from him?
Yeah, I'm panicking hard.
Are you really?
Yeah. I'm panicking hard. I'm panicking hard on the fact that in such a run-first offense as such, it's going to be Dobbins. It's going to be Gus Edwards. It's pretty much the mantra of their coaching scheme is run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So even McConkey last week, mate, if he doesn't have his touchdown, he's scoring like 6 points. He could be touchdown dependent week to week. So as much of a talent that he is, I feel as though he might be touchdown dependent just due to the scheme of this offense moving forward.
And that's fair. Again, like I said at the start, like, I guess my mantra at the moment is be patient and don't panic. I'd like to think that Justin Herbert's going to be better than 150 yards through the air most weeks. He's a very good QB. He's very talented. And I can't help but think that Josh Palmer's going to be the beneficiary of his improvement. So I'm not panicking yet. A little uneasy, though.
Do you start Dobbins or do you start Gus Edwards?
I'm happy to start either.
I'm happy
to start either. I'd prefer to start J.K. Dobbins, but I'm happy to start either.
It was a bit concerning, though, last week. I don't know if you saw Dobbins play, but he should have had like 3 touchdowns. Like he broke out for a couple, and then his one leg just fell apart on him. He hasn't got that burst of speed coming, and that top speed as such as what we're used to. He's gone through a lot with injuries, but it's a shame.
Well, that's it. Yeah, and that could just be game conditioning, right? Like, who's to say that give it 3 or 4 weeks, he really has his legs under him. He's back understanding what game pace looks like, and he's got that little bit of extra burst back. I don't know. But I'm happy. It was a pretty even split. It was 11-10 in terms of rushing attempts. So I'm happy to start either one of them. I think it's going to fall either way throughout the span of the year. It's going to be hard to read which one's going to go big each week. J.K. Dobbins definitely isn't going for 135 off 10 attempts again.
No,
but I think both are going to be pretty serviceable. It's just working out which one hits.
I think you just ride the hot hand at this stage, and you probably just roll with J.K. Dobbins over Gus Edwards this week. I mean, it could be one of those shit shows where it just turns week to week. You know, you try and start Dobbins, you try and start Gus Edwards. You just don't know which one to start. And
agreed.
We'll know more soon.
For sure.
Let's move on to the next game. My Cowboys, they're at home against the Saints. Olave. Obviously, you start him. You start him. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they had 47 points on the board last week, and he had 1 catch. Surely this changes.
2. Yeah,
2 catches, sorry.
It's another 5 yards. You needed him.
Yeah. Obviously, you start him, but he should bounce back this week.
See, I don't know. Hot take. I don't know if he will. It's been very well documented, the chemistry issues that he has with DC. And Derek Carr definitely loves Raheed Shaheed. He loves those long bombs. And for some reason, he's just persistent. He's just really reluctant to throw it to Olave for some reason. So you got to start him. If you've got him on your squad, you drafted him high, you've got to start him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But personally, I'm a little concerned. He was off my draft board coming in because of that. It's just a little bit of you need to prove it before I believe it, as opposed to just believing the hype and understanding what the situation is. He's so good and he's so talented. But for me, there's a little bit of a worry of that first week only getting 2 looks in such a massive effort from the Saints. He definitely needs a big week this week for me to not be hitting the panic button.
So I actually reckon that the Cowboys will win this game. I'm pretty confident by saying that.
Oh, yeah.
But in saying that, the game script's going to be negative. Derek Carr loves the long ball. Olave loves the long ball. Shaheed loves the long ball. Trevon Diggs will be guarding one of those 2, and he gets lost a lot. So they're going to break out a long ball at some stage this week, mate.
You're the Cowboys guy. I might back you on that. I might have to look at Bet365 markets and have a little tipple on that. But I think Dallas will win pretty comfortably, mate. They're 13-5 at the spread as the away favorite over the last 4 or 5 years. Although the Saints looked good last week, I think that was against a pretty subpar opponent. I'm not worried if I'm a Cowboys fan. They're gonna I think there's a big bounce back coming from CD this week. Big game coming.
Should be.
In theory. I didn't even know what he did last week. Yeah, 10 attempts for 40. I'm surprised that he hit 4 yards a carry, to be completely honest. You probably do. If you've got him, you may have gone 0 RB. So you start him ideally as a flex. But
is he startable?
I'm not starting him. He's startable. I'm not starting him with any kind of confidence that he's going to have a big game.
I'm benching him.
Is that personal or is that fantasy?
If it's personal, I'm fucking starting him. Mate. Look, Rico Dowdle will be more involved in the offense as the season goes on. Zeke, they're going to try and manage him the whole way through the season, in my opinion, and get him ready for the postseason, because you can't have these guys just complete dead in the water by week 15, 16. So they'll manage him. They'll start using Dowdle a bit more, and just keep Zeke alive. Now this one's going to be an interesting one, mate. Colts at the Packers. This one is interesting. Now, Anthony Richardson is probably going to be the QB1 this week against a weak secondary.
He's open.
Yeah, like they're terrible. Not terrible, but they're just average, the Packers secondary. So the question is, will he get Pittman involved?
I'd like to think so. So obviously you do a lot more research on your own players, and I've got both Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman was very serviceable in the games where Anthony Richardson played at the start of last year. He had 11 targets for 8 receptions, 12 targets for 8 receptions, 11 targets for 9 receptions before he went down. So he's happy to target him. I don't know if it was, again, like I talked about before, if he just had his sea legs being the first game back from injury. I don't know. It was a weird week from start to finish. Yes, to answer your question, I think Pittman gets more involved, but I think it's going to be a monster week on the ground for Anthony Richardson. I think the Packers are going to be in a bit of strife.
So the most concerning thing for me in the air with Richardson is he completed 9 passes last week. It was 9 for 19. I mean, some of those passes that he threw last week for those long balls were fucking insanity. Like, you go, how the fuck did he do that?
Mate.
And then some of those ones that he missed to Donnie Mitchell were just horrendous. You're like, how did he miss that?
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword.
The fact that he finished as the QB4, completing 9 passes, should scare the shit out of everyone in the league that doesn't own Anthony Richardson. He has proper potential to like break fantasy, and not like, Lamar Jackson in his first year. Like, this dude rushed inside the red zone, had 4 guys try to tackle him, and still broke through and bullied his way in for a touchdown. He is an athletic. He's a freak of nature. He's so much fun to watch too. He's amazing.
I'm a owner in a different league for a Rich man, and I'm actually shit scared of him too, because he's gonna fucking do something stupid and gets injured for the rest of the year. So I'm still tempering my expectations. I'm hoping he plays more than 9 quarters or 10 quarters last year.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can just play the whole year and turn out to be this QB1 that everyone expects at some point.
Yeah, it's he should be all right. Moving on to the Packers side, I'm curious. Out of the 3 Packers receivers in Watson, Dubs, and Reed, do you have your eye on anyone in particular for this week?
I don't start any of them this week, mate. I cannot trust Malik Willis. Yeah, I can't trust Malik Willis. I mean, it might be a hot take. One of these guys might go off, but I can't trust him, mate. I can't trust a backup QB who's already gone to his second team. The Titans didn't even like him. So, you know, and this is the guy who was saying, "Oh, we should have punted on 1st and 10 every play last week. We would have won the game." So if the Titans didn't like Malik Willis, then I don't either. So look, I don't start anyone this week on the Packers, mate, apart from Josh Jacobs.
All right, throw a hypothetical out there for you. We just talked about how much you don't like Carolina this week. Who are you starting, Reed or Deontay Johnson?
Well, if you had to start one, it's probably going to be Deontay Johnson if I have to start one.
I agree.
Yeah.
Someone's going to go off for the Packers, but it's damn near impossible to work out which one.
If they drop 30 points this week, and Reed, Watson, and Dobbs all go off, then that could be the end of this podcast.
We're going to look really dumb. I just can't see it not being. I can't see them not protecting Malik Willis and having this really low risk passing attack with a bunch of screens, a bunch of heaps of the run, little bailouts to the tight end and the running back. I can't see them attacking downfield, and normally wide receivers don't perform if that's the offense that you've got.
Yeah. All right, Josh Jacobs should be eaten this week though. He should be supporting Malik Willis. He should probably see north of 20 carries and really just try and control the game on the ground. Yes,
he should. That being said, he is questionable with a back injury. I only just noticed this about 20 minutes ago, so I didn't get to add it to the injury report. But
yes.
He was limited with a back injury today at training. Whether that is just whether he's just resting and they know that he's going to have a massive couple of weeks. Just giving
that back injury is from that's going to be from carrying the team. That back injury.
Oh yeah, Chris Judd level of shoulder strapping for the next month for him, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Next game. This one's going to be a hard one, mate. But Browns at Jags. Browns at Jags. Now, I can't start anyone on the Browns outside of Ford and Cooper.
Yep.
That's not really a big call, but Deshaun Watson can sit on my bench, even in Superflex leagues. I don't trust him at all until I see him start producing. Cooper was one of my favorite sleepers going into this draft. I thought he was undervalued as ADP personally, but if Deshaun's playing this badly, I'm now highly concerned about Cooper. But you keep playing your best.
You've got to, at least until they show that it's not worth having him. I think it may have been yourself or Guns that mentioned coming into the year that in the past Cooper has been sensational when Deshaun is on field. So you have to think that they're probably going to regress to the mean, and that Amari Cooper will get the targets, and he's talented enough that he's going to do well. I don't think he's dropped off a physical cliff and no longer can play football. I think that's going to come good. That being said, though, Cleveland signed him to the worst contract in history in giving him fully guaranteed money, coming back off all that nonsense. The man has no motivation to play football. So if the game script's bad, if he's getting rushed and he's getting pressured too much, the man's going to, twist an ankle and claim that he's torn his ACL and be done. So Deshaun sucks. He's a better person than he is a QB. I don't want any part of him.
And that's low, might I add.
Slow. That being said, the Browns D looked incredible in week 1. The pass rush was bloody scintillating.
So
insane. It's going to be a tough day for Lawrence.
Even Jerome Ford, mate, I thought he looked pretty good in week 1. Game script sort of fell out of his favour. When he got his touches, he looked really good, involved. Yeah. And I think they won't get belted this week. They might even win this week, to be honest. But he can be starting in an RB2 position if he needed to. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, not too far off what Rashad White was last year, just a volume play. He's not going to be particularly explosive. He's not going to be the guy to break away for a 40-yard run, but he should get enough volume to be serviceable, at least in the RB2 spot, definitely in the flex.
I'll give you one here on the Jag side of things.
Go on.
Are you out on Christian Kirk due to the emergence of Brian Thomas?
No, absolutely not. I like him a lot in this game. Yeah, I think with that pass with that pass rush, I think, again, game plans very quickly against good pass rushes lean on sitting in the shotgun, short, quick passes, getting it to your main guys. Christian Kirk still works out of the slot. They'll get the ball in his hands. If you're in a half PPR or full PPR, he's a must start purely out of volume. But he's good enough that he should be able to break away and should be very serviceable this week. I
start both players this week. I love Ryan Thomas, man. This guy's going to be fucking beast. I mean, the only thing that worries me is if he's touchdown dependent on his fantasy scores. Like, can he carve out a 6 for 120 and no touchdowns and still be a good week? I'm not too sure about that. He may have those like 3 for 58 point weeks, and that's okay, I suppose. But he could be touchdown dependent. Concern.
Yeah, I think that there's just the difference on whether or not he's got a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1 ceiling, right? Like, if he's scoring touchdowns, he has the ability to start pushing that in the next year or two. I'm pretty sure he broke records for his catch radius in the combine. Like, the dude is so long, he's so athletic, like, outrageous. He's out there running like he's Tayshaun Prince, like, but like he's so long that as long as J-Law can get it in his vicinity, he's going to have a chance at bringing it in. That's a guy that you want because, again, half PPR, full PPR, every catch is worth something. So he's definitely one to start and he should be good. Hopefully the touchdowns go his way, though.
Yeah. Etienne should bounce back this week, in my opinion, based off volume. Based off volume alone, they'll feed him. Are we worried about Bigsby at all? No,
not really.
Cool.
No,
good
not
answer.
at all.
I was thinking the same thing, mate. He was a bit unlucky last week, Eddie, and he had a fumble on the goal line. Pretty much, it was actually a really good defensive play. But mate, put 2 hands on the ball and fucking protect it like it's a baby. Not with the one hand to carry the arm and just bang from behind. Protect the
legit.
ball.
Everyone's going to have bad games. I really think last week was just this weird moment where everyone that should have played well got smoked and just didn't play well. I think Etienne's too good to not have at least a serviceable game. He might not necessarily blow off, but he'll be all right.
Agreed. Next game we have got Jets at Titans. Jets
Yes.
at Titans. This is going to be an interesting one. The Jets should bounce back, in my opinion. They were horrendous in week 1, but it's against a Super Bowl contender as such, so that can be expected.
Yep.
Do you start Tony Pollard against a really good defense?
Hell yeah, I do. Yeah, I
Against
really
a really
do.
good Jets
I don't.
defense.
It is a very good Jets defense. I temper my expectations though. The coach, I can't remember his name, the coach of the Titans came out and said that the split that they had between him and Tajay Spears wasn't what they wanted it to be. Especially in the second half, he out-touched Tajay Spears 19-8. So I think that's going to, again, regress to the mean and be much closer to a 50-50 split, similar to what we saw with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Wouldn't surprise me. I think that makes both of them a halfway decent flex play. Little nugget for you, though. Jets coming off the short week. They're historically not particularly good off the short week. Aaron Rodgers looked like he was probably a couple of weeks away. Like he looked like he was before week 1 of preseason. I think Titans come away with a win here. I really do.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I actually think the Jets win, mate. And I think they win not comfortably, but it'll be a grind. And I want to see Garrett Wilson more involved in the offense too. That was pathetic from Rodgers.
It was.
I just want to see this guy turn into the Devontae Adams of Green Bay. This guy's just
the same thing we talked about with Atlanta, right?
Yeah, but this he's crying out for a good QB, and Aaron Rodgers was like going to be the saving grace of the Jets franchise, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't start Pollard, mate. I'm not really too keen on Pollard this week. I don't start any Titans running backs. I'm not really looking forward to their shit show they might run through the ground because their offensive line's okay. It's not great. It's not shit. It's just okay. So I think this Jets defense will bounce back and it'll stop the run, and he will have to do it in the air.
Yeah, I can understand why you'd think that. I can't help but think that they had Jordan Mason run around for 147 yards on him. Maybe they're a little bit more porous than we maybe expect of the Jets D. We know their secondary is outstanding, but maybe their run defense. There's always a spot where defenses will typically falter a little bit. We know their secondary is outstanding. We know their pass rush is good. Maybe it's the run game that they're a little bit more porous. I'm very comfortable starting Pollard. A little bit more shaky on Tajay Spears because he hasn't really shown it after last week. But I like Pollard this week. Tajay Spears broke all of the metrics last year on like being elusive and breakaway run rate and stuff like that. So he's got potential. He needs the opportunity though, and we haven't seen the opportunity yet. So but he was good enough to keep Derrick Henry off the field last year. So
yeah. Ridley, D Hop, bench, start. What do you do with
Ridley?
them?
I'll start. D Hop, I'll probably stay away.
Snap count still.
Yeah. Just knowing that there's a snap. Yeah, knowing there's a snap count, knowing it's more than likely going to be a bit of a defensive battle. If I can avoid D Hop, I will. But I'm starting Calvin Ridley for sure.
If we could start punters in football, I would probably go with the Titans punter. Their coach was potentially loving the work that he could have given him last week. So unfortunately, can't start punters. I would have started him instantly. Mate, I don't think I'd start Ridley this week. If I was an owner, I would bench him.
Real down on the Titans, mate.
Yeah, until I.
Or is this a really high on the Jets defense?
I think it's a bit of both. It's a bad matchup. And I mean, look, you look at it last week. D-Bear was okay. He had that rushing touchdown. Ayuk was pretty crap. And Ridley, the last couple of years hasn't really been too enticing on Ridley, so he hasn't really bounced back yet. I know he's.
Yeah, it's fair.
I don't know, man. I just wouldn't do it. I'd bench Ridley until I start seeing some production out of him.
Yeah, it's a tough game to read, but you know what? Maybe we should have a 6-pack bet on that one, actually. I reckon the Titans, you reckon the Jets.
Righto. I'm in.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm in.
Let's do it.
It is a Titans home game too, so all right, you're on that.
Done. Let's do it. Love
it. Let's move on to the next game, mate. Bucks at Lions. This is going to be a fucking fun game. This is amazing, this game. Now, I reckon every single fantasy option in this game should eat.
Agreed.
Anyone you can name. However, do you start Jamison Williams at any point in your flex? If you're in deeper leagues, do you start him as if you have 2 or 3 flexes in your league, do you start Jamison Williams?
Hell yeah, I do. I will talk about him a little bit more in another segment. But yes, I'm so high on Jameson Williams. He looked phenomenal. It was awesome to see the product of all this preseason hype on how we're getting him more involved and finally looking like he's going to live up to that first round draft pick pedigree. He looked fantastic. He looked so impactful. And when he got the ball in his hands, there was proper yak yards. Like he looked fantastic. I'm a big fan of Jameson Williams this week.
The only problem I've got with this Lions offense, I keep saying defense, is you've got Monty, you've got Gibbs,
Yes.
you've got Amon-Ra,
Yes.
you've got Laporta, and you've got Jameson Williams. You start 4 of those 5 automatically without even thinking about it. You start 4 of those 5.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Goff can support 5 options on offense.
Oh, he probably can't.
Starting caliber. So someone's gonna fall out of favor here. It might be Amon-Ra again. It could be Laporta. But
yeah,
look,
you're right. Someone's gonna miss.
Someone's gonna miss. But the Bucks do have a really weak secondary as well. So this will be very pass heavy. It could be even Montgomery this week, mate. It really could be. I don't know. But
yeah, I'm starting to look at the Lions the same way I look at the 49ers in that they've got Debo, they've got Ayuk, they've got CMC, they've got Kittle. Not all 4 of them, typically, not all 4 will eat every week. Lions are probably the same. There's going to be someone that misses, but the big weeks from those guys are so good. You can't not. Yeah. There's a little bit more risk involved because there's so much talent, but you can't sit one out of fear of that. They're just too good.
Mike Evans has to be like one of the most underrated players of all time. I still can't believe
man's already Hall of Fame, right?
Has to be. The question is he first ballot or not? That's the real question. But maybe after another 1,000-yard season, he might be first ballot. But, mate, I start all Bucks this week as well. Godwin, Evans, obviously you start Rashad White. Baker Mayfield, do you start him?
1,000%. Yep. He didn't make my list, but he was very close to being my start of the week at QB. I think he will blow up. It's going to be a massive. It should be a shootout. Divisional matchup as well. There's a bit of a rivalry there. Yes, Mike Evans should blow up. Baker Mayfield. I love how much more comfortable he's looking as each year passes, as each game passes. Someone that looked like they were, for all intents and purposes, out of the league, and now is looking like a very, very serviceable quarterback, like a proper football player. Love to see it purely from the storyline, but fantasy-wise, he can support multiple pass catches. He looks great.
We love that. For fantasy football, we
love it. Love it. Something to watch very quickly before we move on. There was 163 yards rushing from Monty and Gibbsy in week 1. Bucks gave up 7 receptions and 101 yards to the running back last year, but last week, but last year they were the 6th best against the rush. So it wouldn't surprise me, following on what you just said about Monty, if he has maybe a little bit of a quiet week, but Jahmyr Gibbs gets a lot of work pass catching out of the backfield because they look like they're quite susceptible to those little dump offs and running out of the backfield.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And Gibbs is an explosive player as well. I know Monty tore up the overtime last week against the Rams, but Gibbs, he breaks the game open. So
for sure.
I'd love to see him play more, man, and get rid of Monty and give this guy a full workload.
Oh, if he can handle it physically,
I'd like to see it. But you can always get an RB too that can support. But that's for sure. Monty.
Probably.
But now this next game, Raiders at the Ravens. In capital letters, I've got on my run sheet here. Bench Zamir White.
Yep. Agreed.
It's in red too.
You've got it in red.
Against a really, really good Ravens defense. He
was
subpar last week at best. He got out-snapped to Alex Madison. There is no situation where I feel comfortable starting Zamir White this week.
Yep, I agree. I think it's game script is not going to go his way. It looks like just from the numbers that Alexander Madison is their pass catching or third down back, having 6 targets out of the backfield, looked actually halfway decent in that role.
Yeah.
It's the biggest line of the week at 9.5. I think the Ravens will comfortably put Vegas in the ground. With that, I'd be starting Derrick Henry with lots of confidence. I'm not worried at all about last week with Hill. It was very clear that he was in as the pass catching and third down back. Not going to be required this week very much, to be honest. If anything, Derrick Henry eats, they get out to a large lead and they put Hill in to spell Henry at the back end of the game. I think you can start pretty much all your Ravens comfortably in this game.
Speaking of which, the two tight ends. It's a question. It's a question. But do you start Andrews and Likely? I think they are both in situations this week where they should be fantasy relevant. Mark Andrews last week was getting double teamed.
I was going to say, what are your thoughts on Mark Andrews? Are you as panicked and as, let's drop 85 fab on Likely as everyone else seems to be, or?
No. And look, this in our Vista League, mate, I do have Andrews. I know you've been trying to buy cheaply.
I want him, man. I want him.
You knew who had him, and you knew exactly what you're going to get when you saw who had him.
Exactly.
A big fuck you, mate.
Exactly.
No, I am actually in on both players, mate. I think that the Ravens need another passing option outside of Flowers and Andrews, and I don't trust Bateman. I don't trust anyone else, Aguilar. I don't trust any of those guys. But Likely he's just like, he was playing as like a wide receiver last week.
Yeah, he was. And it's funny you say that. I think Bateman's probably going to be the one to lose out most from this kind of breakout from Isaiah Likely. I think they'll play a lot more 12-man sets because that plays into having Derrick Henry run out more because he's got another tight end out there as another blocker. Zay Flowers isn't going to get sat. He looks fantastic, and second-year wide receivers typically have a bit of a step up. So I think he's going to be great. I really wouldn't worry about Mark Andrews at all. It was very clear, like you said, clear double team focus. At some points, he was getting triple teamed by Kansas. Even despite all that, he ran more snaps. So he was out there for more snaps and ran more routes than Isaiah Likely. It's just the defense was all moving over to him. I'm not panicking at all about Mark Andrews. And if you're in a league where the owner is panicking, go get him. Get him cheap because he's going to be great.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And the Raiders, their defense is Max Crosby and then whatever. Yeah. So everyone should eat this game, mate.
For sure. And on that, ignore everything I just said. Trade me Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Wait till he drops a big 20 bagger this week, mate, and he's on a
wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, tight end one this week, mate. Wouldn't surprise me.
But let's move on to another fun game here, mate. It's the Rams and the Cardinals. Now, Cooper Kupp to the moon this week.
To the fucking moon.
I've got a theory in fantasy football for the whole year that we start every single player that is fantasy relevant against the Cardinals. Their defense is horrendous. And it's probably worse than horrendous, to be honest with you. Kyron Williams, you start him. Obviously, you start your best players. Did we start anyone else on the Rams outside of those two?
On the Rams? Yeah. I'm having a name blank. What's the tight end's name?
Parkinson.
Parkinson. I think you can start him with tight end with touchdown upside this week. He could be okay. Just as a flyer, if you don't have one of the top 5 tight ends, you can stream him, and he has the potential at being halfway decent. The Cards defense looked pretty porous the same way it did last year. I'm not particularly worried about the Cards D, and I'm pretty sure they were 32nd in the league last year against the tight end as well. So I think Parkinson's probably a good start this week. Cooper Kupp, if he was to finish this week with 15 catches for 250 yards, I wouldn't be that surprised. Like, the dude's going to eat, like you said, to the moon. Very quick note, if you're in a league where Blake Corum got dropped, go get him right now.
He should not be on waivers.
The fact that he's sitting at the top of the trending down market in Sleeper blows my mind. The dude is so good and was very clearly brought in as a 101 handcuff to one of the most injury-prone backs of the league. You cannot be letting Blake Corum sit on your waivers.
No. And I know he was inactive last week from memory.
No snaps.
Yeah. I'm still okay with that. He's just hold him.
Yeah.
It's fine. On the Cardinal side of things, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a debut to forget, but I don't think it's all doom and gloom for him, mate. I started him again this week and just hope he bounces back. I'm a bit worried that
You've got him,
Murray
right?
can't see over the offensive line. He's too short. I'm a bit worried about that. But especially in that last play of the game, one of the last plays of the game, he was wide open. No one's even near him. But he'll be more involved. He was frustrated during the week, saying he needs to be more involved in the offense. So that they'll make it a focal point. He'll be there.
For sure. For anyone who hasn't seen it, there was a meme going around during the week saying that Kyler Murray, when he rushes, looks like a toddler that's taken the phone from their parents and he's running away. Once you see it, you'll never unsee it. I actually didn't mind the Cards last week. I actually think they looked somewhat functional despite the loss. I'm not particularly worried. I think they're going to be a pretty solid unit to have pieces in. I think Trey McBride looks like he's going to have an outside shot at being the tight end one overall this year. He had 9 targets. The offense is focused around him. James Conner looked fantastic. Trey Benson, when he got a run, looked quite impactful as well. The Marvin Harrison thing, is that a chemistry thing? Is it a rookie thing, being in the wrong spot, being a half step slow? Whatever it is, I'd just be tempering my expectations in the short term. But I'm not panicking getting rid of him. I'm not dropping him. It's just sit him in your flex. You drafted him high. He has to be on your squad. Sit him in your flex and just wait for him to come good.
I am nervous, though. They're giving James Conner a lot of work early. I am nervous that this guy can't carry this whole offense for a whole season. And that's my biggest concern with James Conner. Even in past seasons, he injury-prone back. If Trey Benson's on waivers, it's probably another one where you'd go, all right, I'm taking him and sitting him as your worst player in your roster and just sitting him and just hoping that James Conner gets hurt, because he will eventually.
Yeah, Matty, you know how high I was on Trey Benson coming into draft season. He was on my board. Someone circled that I wasn't going to let fall away. I think James Conner hasn't played. I think James Conner's missed like 4 to 5 games minimum and hasn't played all games through week 6 in like 5 years. So it's going to happen. He's going to get hurt. He's going to sit, and then Trey Benson's going to come in. If you sickos like me have yourself some free time, go jump online and watch Trey Benson college highlights, because the man is an absolute monster. He's a pit bull that breaks through every single tackle he gets. He's so exciting, and I think once he gets his chance, he's going to be real hard. So yeah, here. If he's on your waivers, go pick him up, sit him at the bottom of your bench.
And I also reckon I'd give it a couple of weeks as well, but I'd sell high on James Conner in probably a week or two. As well, and try and get some value out of him when you can.
I
agree. He'll eat the next couple of weeks.
Oh, for sure. He should have a good game against the Rams this week. He should be very serviceable, and he's going to get volume too, which is a very, very helpful thing. So yeah, I agree.
Let's move on to the next game, mate. Bengals at the Chiefs. This one's going to be fucking weird for the Bengals, but I don't play Zach Moss at all, and I think that Jamar Chase. I'm hoping he bounces back. I actually thought he was just a third down back / red zone threat last week, but he actually played 84% of the snaps.
Did he really?
Yeah. He played majority of the game then.
Right. There you go. Yeah, I thought he was only out for third downs and red zone.
Yeah, that's what they said. He came out and pretty much played the whole game. So he's going to be McDuffie's going to have him this week. I don't know what to think about Jamar Chase. He should bounce back. He's too good not to. But again,
you got to start him.
As you said, temper expectations just a little bit, because he still hasn't had a training camp and he's still a little bit fresh to the old football this year.
Yep, exactly right. And I know that there is a bit of a narrative of, Cincinnati played the Pats last week, and I don't think they're a particularly good defense. I think last week for the Pats looked really good on the defensive side of the ball as a result of how bad Cincinnati looked. It wasn't the other way around. So you've got one-arm Burrow out there who hasn't been able to throw 2 days in a row for 2.5 months. Chase looked very underdone. Obviously, there's no Higgins out there. I'd start Chase. I'd be hesitant to start Moss. I'd be happy to start him if I had to if I didn't have any other options, because there's much worse out there. So I'd still start Moss. But outside of that, there's no one from the Bengals you could pay me to touch. I'm not starting Burrow either. I'll
start starting Moss when this offense starts humming.
That's fair.
That's when he'll make his money. Goal line carries, because they saw none last week at all. So
they didn't. He definitely got saved with the touchdown last week.
Yeah, so as long as when he starts humming and the offense starts humming, then Zach Moss will be fantasy relevant. But until then, maybe give it till about week 4, week 5 till they start getting back to where they used to be. On the Chiefs side of things, mate, Worthy. What do we think about Worthy?
Oh, mate. I got flashbacks to watching Achan last year when he broke out, and it's like 4 or 5 touches, and it felt like every time he was even on the field, they were breaking away for 20, 30, 40-yard runs on a touchdown. I'm happy to start him with confidence this week. He's too electric, he's too efficient, and there's too much example in the league elsewhere to show how to utilize a gadget guy that's that impactful to not have him out there. I'm starting all Kansas players, whether it be Worthy, Rice, Kelsey, Pacheco, Mahomes, all 5 of them, get him in there. Same as the Lions. Someone's probably going to fall short, but you can't risk being the guy that misses.
So you probably have to start Worthy just based off what he can do. I'm just a bit nervous about Worthy that he's touchdown dependent. It's another one where, he had like 4 targets or 5 targets last week. So, if he doesn't have 2 touchdowns, he's probably going to score like 4 or 5 points. So I'm just worried that hopefully this isn't the case. And, he's got, again, a bit like a Brian Thomas Jr. Stat line. He has 5 catches for 80 yards, and that's fantasy relevant and that's startable.
Yeah. No, you bring up a really good point. I should have checked this before, but I'm interested to see what because I feel like I'm looking in the past. I can't find it right now. Achan last year, it felt like the exact same thing when he first started. Like his first couple of games, he had 8 touches for 101 and 11 touches for 151. Like it took next to nothing for him to be hyper impactful. You don't want to be that guy that's sitting there, you lose by 12 points and you've got a 25 sitting on your bench because you didn't start Worthy. You've just got to ride the wave. It's going to suck at times and it's probably going to suck more than it doesn't, but he's going to win you weeks. You just got to start him.
Ride the upside.
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Let's move on to the next game, mate. Steelers Broncos.
Yes.
I don't start anyone with confidence on the Broncos side of things at all. I'm benching them all against a pretty good defense too in the Steelers. TJ Tackle's going to kill someone, I reckon, in this game. But I'm not starting Devonta. I'm not starting anyone. Courtland Sutton, nobody. None.
Yep, agreed. TJ nearly did last week, to be honest. Dude looked like an absolute world beater. The Pit D looks great. It's their calling card. Pittsburgh always has good defense, and it looks just as good as it always does. Bo Nix looked really shaky last week too. He looks scared out there. So it's only going to be worse with TJ Watt breaking through a subpar offensive line. Agreed. I'd consider a dart throw on Jaleel McLaughlin if you've picked him up because he looks like the pass catching back. He looks like he's going to be out there quite a bit. And we know that RB outside your top 20, 24 can get quite thin quite quick. So I'm okay with starting him in your flex if you have to, but not unless you have to. Broncos will not have a good day. Yeah.
On the Steelers side of things, mate, I would start. Looks like Fields is going to start for him this week. I'm pretty confident saying Fields will be their QB. I'm okay with that. Pickens, I'd start, and I don't think I'd start anyone else outside of Fields and Pickens, in my opinion.
I think you are crazy. I think Najee Harris, and I know it's for people that are in our home league, they know that I've got Najee. I think he's a smash play. He had 20 carries last week, looked average in the first half, but came good. Arthur Smith loves guys that shouldn't be good and making them good. Apparently, that's kind of his thing. I think Najee has a massive week. Denver's run defense is average at best. I think Najee's going to have a big week. Could have 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Najee's just
Arthur Smith loves him.
Najee's killed me, man. Killed me in 2 years in a row in fantasy. I can't.
Fair. That's fair. But for anyone else that's not personally victimized by Najee Harris, start him because he's going to have a very good week.
I can't. Let's move on to the next game, mate. You were saying before we went live,
yes,
that this game is going to be a mega game, and I'm sort of on the same path as you. We got the Bears at the Texans.
Yes,
this is going to be a fun game to watch. Hopefully, we can see Caleb Williams just turn into a half decent QB and support everyone that he's got on the field because he's got some fucking weapons. If he can pass for 200 yards or something like that, we're backing on him.
For sure. I think the best version, for the Bears at least, the best version of the Bears is the one where Caleb Williams doesn't have to win Offensive Rookie of the Year to be good. I think he can be serviceable with that 200, 225 passing yards a game kind of line. Their secondary looks outstanding. And
Yes.
I think purely for Caleb Williams, the fact that they got a win off 2 turnovers created by the defense last week is going to help him out mentally, take the pressure off, go, okay, cool. Even if I completely shit the bed, our defense is good enough to keep us in the game. So he can play a little bit more confidently, be willing to pass downfield, be willing to take chances. Because we've seen glimpses already through the preseason and even week one. There's moments where he gets that look in his eye, makes this outlandish pass, makes this great run outside the pocket, and he looks like he's got the potential of being a top 5 guy in the NFL. Hopefully that can give him the confidence to really chase it. And I'm expecting a bit of a bounce back from him where he looks like a very competent QB.
Well, I want to say DJ Moore be heavily involved this week in the offense, man. Like, he's their best option.
He should be.
He's their best option. He's like a mini Debo in a way. I'd even look at it, get him to carry the ball, man. Like, give him some carries, get him going as well. Such a good player like that. You want the ball in his hands.
For sure.
Do you start any running backs at the Bears? You start Swift? I can't start any of them this week, in my opinion.
Again, if you've drafted him, you've got him relatively high, or you've taken him in like a hero RB, and he's your second. So I don't see him starting on many teams outside the RB2 slot. So you're probably going to have to start him. I'm not confident on him. I'm not bullish. I don't think he's going to have a particularly large week. He didn't.
Got one for you.
But go on.
Would you start J.K. Dobbins or DeAndre Swift?
J.K. Dobbins.
I agree.
J.K. Dobbins. Yeah.
I agree.
DeAndre Swift didn't show anything that shows that he's going to be getting running back targets out of the backfield. So I'm taking J.K.
Yep. And the Bears got a lot
That's
of
a hard one, though.
It is.
That's a hard one.
It's a good talking point. You mentioned this Bears secondary being so good. And we're talking CJ Stroud throwing darts to 3 options.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting to see how he goes against this really good secondary.
Someone's going to eat. Again, we've said it a couple of times. Someone's going to eat. Like, they had 215 yards between all 3 of the big name wide receivers in Diggs, Collins, and Tank Dell. Tank Dell was the guy who missed out last week. That's even with Mixon contributing 178 all-purpose yards and a touchdown on the ground. There's so much to go around in this offense. It's so high octane. I'd be starting all with confidence. Just go in knowing that someone's going to miss, and hope that you're the one of the 3 that actually hit. Because I think all of them are a really solid play. I was surprised to see Diggs be the first read in the red zone so quickly, though. I'm
glad you mentioned that, because I was going to mention, if I was a Diggs owner, I'd be looking to sell him immediately based off that one game, and trying to sell high on his name and his 2 touchdowns that he had, because I don't think he's going to be able to replicate that one. I'd be selling. Yeah, I'd be selling. I'm not particularly worried. I'd probably hold personally. Like, he still had 6 receptions. He had red zone looks. He had a carry as well. Like, they're very clearly trying to keep him, or trying to get him involved in any way they can early. So I'm probably happy to hold. But if you were trying to sell high, I can understand why you did. I'd just be worried that this was just the start. Depending on who you can get back, but I would try and look at doing that immediately. I think this is a good game to sell high on him too. So, because I think he could have some low games coming up, and that could kill his value. So I'm a big believer of selling high at the right time. This is the right time. Well, Ace Reed, go have a chat to Matty Morrell, mate. I think he's interested. Joe Mixon, 30 carries last week, man. I'm a bit worried about that. He's not going to be able to do that for a whole year. Oh, it's definitely not going to happen. Again, beneficiary of game script going against the Colts. Yep. The Colts looked pretty subpar defensively, so he just kept going. He was just so efficient. Like, when you have a first half like he did, and he was averaging like 5.2 yards a carry, he just kept feeding them the ball, and it just kept happening. He only played 72% of snaps as well. Yeah. So there's room for him to be out there more often, not get rested at the back end of a game. All the preseason hype in the fantasy community seems like it's worth it, because that was a blow up. Bloody oath. Let's move on to the last game of the week, mate. This is Monday Night Football, and I don't know what to think about this game at all, but Falcons at the Eagles. Now, I'm going to start with the Falcons, mate. Not a good week 1 at all. Kirk Cousins looked seriously washed. Play action wild was non-existent in play action. Drake London was nowhere to be seen. Kyle Pitts had a really lucky touchdown where he's waved his arms up in the air saying, I'm open, and then got the ball. I don't know what to think about this offense, man. Is it going to take him a few weeks to get going? Probably. But, it
wouldn't surprise me if it took him the whole year, mate. For me, it's wild that people didn't see this coming. You know, Cousins struggling in his first game back after a torn Achilles, like through 2 ints, heaps of targets in the slot, not looking to the outside. The only touchdown he did throw was on a broken play where Kyle Pitts had half a field to himself. I'm starting Bijan, of course. It's going to be a tough game against Philly, and they're going to game plan for him. They're going to stack the box, knowing what Kirk Cousins has got. So, again, immediately temper your expectations. I wouldn't expect much. But, Cousins looked horrible, and I think it's going to take minimum a month and a half before he starts looking anywhere close. I think people maybe fell in love with the narrative of Drake London being the new Justin Jefferson for Kirk Cousins and kind of forgot the fact that he tore his Achilles.
And he was real stagnant too. Like, he just could not move out of the pocket at all. And that's not really ever been his style, but he just looked real jittery on his feet.
Oh, yeah.
Now, on the Eagles side of things, I'm smash and play on every single one of these players. Dallas Goedert, smash. Devonta Smith, smash. AJ Brown, obviously, smash. And I'm not talking about in the bedroom. I'm talking about in fantasy football. And do we think Saquon Barkley just continues his hot form with 3 touchdowns in week 1?
I mean, to the same level, probably not. I'll take that back. Looking at the matchup, there's every chance he does. He looked fantastic. He looked like proper prime Saquon. Looked very happy that he's no longer running on that cursed artificial turf at MetLife. Like, what a shithole. Mate, horrible. Saquon looked fantastic and definitely vindicated everyone that picked him at the end of the first round, start of the second. He looked sensational. Yeah, agreed. I'm starting Saquon, starting every single Eagles receiver, and I'm honestly sitting everyone not named Bijan. Again, if you've picked Drake London, he's like, you probably have to start him. But if you have any means of sitting him, any means of sitting Kyle Pitts, sit them both. I
agree. I'm with that. Until we see some production out of these guys, I definitely agree. But again, play action with Hurts and Saquon, it should be pretty special all year long. They're pretty lucky to get him for nothing.
Agreed. Like, literally nothing. Nothing.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our last segment of the night. And this is our best 5 startums and situms of the week. Now, I'm going to start off with you, mate. Give us your 5 best starts of the week, and you can give us some context if you want to.
Cool. I'll keep them short, sharp, and sweet. So, quarterback start of the week is Matt Stafford. Kind of linking into what we said before, the Cards defense is very, very porous, and there's so many weapons. I'm very, very confident in Matthew Stafford this week. I think he's going to have a fantastic week. At the running back, I know that you are way off him, but Najee Harris, I think the game script is going to be so beneficial for him. I think he's got multiple touchdown upside this week. Should continue to get high volume. So I'm very confident in Najee Harris. Wide receiver, you mentioned him before as would you start him in the flex? Jamison Williams is my wide receiver start of the week. I'm so hot on him. I was so impressed by how everything accumulated last week in the preseason hype, in what we saw on field, the play call. They're trying to get him in. They just want the ball in his hands. I'm so high on Jamison Williams this week. I think he's going to have another big one and start to have conversations. Is this the breakout wide receiver of 2024? Tight end, Trey McBride. I talked about it before. The entire Cards offense looks like it's built around Trey McBride and the space that he can create. He looks like he's the receiver 1 on that squad. So if you can somehow prime away from someone else, get him. I think he should have a blow up this week. And my final start of the week is someone that you just mentioned, bit of a dark horse, maybe available on your waiver wire, Dallas Goedert. Tight end is a barren wasteland, as we know. I think Dallas Goedert has multiple touchdown upside this week, just purely on the fact that Atlanta suck and Philly are going to be in scoring position frequently.
Yeah.
What about you, mate? What do you got?
I love that. Trey McBride has to bounce back. That was probably the one that I thought was the one that he has to. It's going to be a high-scoring game. That's going to be a great start.
Agreed.
So my QB to start this week, it's no real surprise, but Jaden Daniels, he's going to absolutely eat these guys up. He could be a smoky for QB1 at the end of the week when it's all said and done.
Yep.
Very big call, but I will start anyone against the Giants because they're a basket case, and this guy's rushing the ball. He's just going to proof. So Jaden Daniels to me is my number one QB start of the week. Number two, I have got for running backs is Brian Robinson. I'm going all in on Washington this week.
We like Washington.
Yeah, I'm backing him in. I think game script will be in his favor as well, where he just rushes them in all day. If he breaks out for a 50 or 60 yard a touchdown, then that's just points. Another start of the week for me is Jordan Mason.
Nice. Yeah, good.
Yeah, had to say Jordan Mason.
For sure.
Big week last week, and against Minnesota, against a real shaky defensive line as such. With a really good offensive line, you have to start Jordan Mason. Has to be starting.
Agreed.
And another start for me in the wide receiver is in the same game as the Washington game, but Malik Neighbors, as I said at the start of the show, it's now or never for Malik Neighbors against a real shaky secondary. You have to start him. This guy should finish realistically as a top 12 receiver this week. I expect him to go off, and there's no reason why he shouldn't, unless Danny Dimes can't support him. So if he can't go off this week, then Malik Neighbors, I'm completely out. But this is the week where he goes off.
Jeez, mate, you are all in on the Giants and Commanders game, aren't you?
I am. It's probably going to get up just to watch that game, to be honest.
Yeah, legit.
And another receiver that I've got, a bit left field here, but Christian Kirk.
Nice.
I'm going to start him this week. He has to be back. He's got that connection with Trevor Lawrence, and he really should eat this week. They'll bounce back, the Jags. And 1 for 30 last week. I'm not too worried just yet, but he's, for me, he'll probably finish the top 15 receiver this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, you heard me in the week 2 preview, mate. I'm quite high on Kirk this week. I think he's got a good one coming. And
I'm going to give you a tight end this week. My last one. It's going to be controversial. Taysom Hill. I'd start him this week.
Oh, I love to hear it.
I'm playing Taysom Hill this week.
Taysom Hill.
Yeah. They're going to line him up everywhere. They're going to run him up as a running back. He could see goal line carries. It's crazy to say.
They're going to have to keep up with the Cowboys. They need to throw something, like they have to do something different.
Yeah, and like I saw last week, he was lining up everywhere. So they're planning on using him. So, and I'm not too big on the Cowboys secondary either, should I say. So Taysom Hill should be involved.
Yep, I like it. Smoky, I like it.
Now we've got the sits of the week. What's your top 5 sits of the week?
I don't think mine are particularly spicy, but they're definitely like avoid candidates outside of the players that we've kind of discussed so far. Kirk Cousins is a sit of the week. I can't trust Kirk in prime time, let alone a post-injury Kirk going against a very solid defense in the Eagles with a solid secondary. So I'm not dropping. I'm sitting Kirk Cousins for literally anyone I can find on waivers. If I would has like hot take, I'm starting Bryce Young over Kirk Cousins this week. Like Kirk Cousins is the worst possible QB you could start this week. He's going to be outside the top 30. Don't touch him. Running back, Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
Way off him. I don't think game script is going to be in his favor. I don't think he's the best back. I don't think he's the best back in that backfield. I said it to you in the offseason. There was those rumors of him getting cut in training camp, and it was kind of found that it was, maybe less than true. But watching him play, it wouldn't surprise me if they've their PR team has just done a really good job and just played down the rumors, because I don't see anything from him that makes me think he's seeing the field in anything other than a supplementary role. Third sit of the week, Zamir White. I think he's getting game scripted out. I think Madison's going to see the field a lot more against the Ravens, being that the Ravens are going to run away with it so quickly. Wide receivers, Marvin Harrison, for the reasons that we touched on earlier. I need to see some kind of cohesion with Kyler Murray before I'm happy to really trust Marvin Harrison. I get you probably have to start him with the position that you took him, but if you have anyone you can pivot to that's in a positive matchup, I'm sitting Marvin Harrison and I'm chucking them in instead. And the last one, as much as it pains me to say it, because I do love the man so much, Murray Cooper. I cannot get around anyone that Deshaun Watson is trying to support in a fantasy perspective. I just don't see it happening. I know that we talked about it before, that in the past, Amari Cooper was fantastic when Deshaun Watson's in and he should regress back to the mean, but I can't trust him, so I'm sitting him.
Guns would hate you, mate.
I'm never coming back.
Not a bad 5, mate. It's got some good context behind it, so I like it. My 5 sits of the week, I'm going to start with Caleb Williams, mate. I'm not playing him this week until I see this guy produce. In saying that, my next player is also on the Bears, and that's going to be Swift. So I'm going to put these two together. I'm not big on the Bears this week at all, to be honest. I wouldn't play either of these guys. I thought the offense last week was real shaky. And Caleb Williams is still a rookie. So he's got a lot of learning to do. And again, until I start seeing him produce, then I wouldn't play him until it happens. My third sit of the week is Zach Moss. I would not touch this guy at all on any fantasy roster until the Bengals start producing some sort of relative fantasy scores that are half decent. That means goal line carries. That means actually achieving something on first downs. They've always had a skeptical offensive line, and Mixon's probably hid the fact that it's been so bad. But Zach Moss, until I see this guy start producing, I wouldn't play him at all. He's probably my biggest sit of the week in running backs. Another one that I'm sitting is as a wide receiver is Calvin Ridley. I'm not playing him. I do not trust Will Levis at this stage to support, well, let's say 3 offensive weapons at wide receiver with Tyler Boyd, D-Hop, and Ridley. And I thought he was pretty pox last week too, and real shaky, panicky, didn't really know what to do, didn't know if he should throw it away or actually try and hit up a receiver. It sort of looked like he was all over the place. For sure. And Ridley, the last couple of years, hasn't really been too enticing for fantasy, in my opinion. And
last year.
And my last sit of the week is actually a few receivers. It's all of Green Bay.
Fair enough.
It's all of Green Bay, mate. I can't start any of those receivers at Green Bay with Malik Willis. As I said at the top of the show, I cannot trust a backup QB who got traded for peanuts out of Tennessee to be relevant enough to keep supporting these guys. So not a chance am I starting Malik Willis. Not Malik Willis, any of the Green Bay receivers, because they could single-handedly lose your week with a 2.2.
Oh, you're 100% right, and it's completely fair enough to keep him out because there's no way of knowing who's going to go.
It could be real touchdown dependent. So
agreed.
Cool. I reckon that'll pretty much do us, mate. Appreciate you jumping in here, mate. It's been a pleasure always. We could sit here having beers all night long or even at the pub, as we always do, and buddy just talk shit about football. We could sit here for hours and hours and hours doing it. But
100%.
It's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you very much, mate. It's been good fun.
Yeah, and if you guys could like and subscribe, give us 5 stars, and we can afford DFAB to come back. That would be great. Have a good one, gents.
See you guys. See you later.